Hello everyone, Mia here. Today I am going to show you how to make a cast sequence macro. This macro will combine all your spells, abilities, items into one, so you can press one button multiple times for all your spells. Also in this tutorial, I'll be covering some of the options that are commonly used in a cast sequence macro. These options include reset conditions, targeting, and using modifiers. Using a cast sequence macro is helpful if you are playing a class that has a rotation. Now, as a warning, a cast sequence macro doesn't always boost your healing or DPS numbers. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of tweaking in order for the macro to be perfect. Here in this video clip, I have made a cast sequence macro on my priest to reapply my buffs after dying in a battleground. On the left is my priest using the macro, while on the right, I'm just standard clicking and pressing buttons. In those video clips, I have my priest casting Fortitude, Shadow Power, and Inner Fire. I am also using my Chakra ability, then casting Flash Heal to get my Serenity Chakra. If the cooldown is up, I also cast Fear Ward on myself. Making a cast sequence macro is pretty easy. You simply open up your macro window by using the game menu or typing /macro. Click on New to make a new macro. Type /cast sequence, then type out the spells and abilities you wish to use, separated by a comma and then a space. Be sure to spell it exactly how the ability looks. Misspelled abilities will not work. I also do not recommend changing the macro's icon to something other than the question mark. This way you can see what spell is up next in the sequence. Reset conditions. You can also add a reset condition to your macro. This basically tells your macro when to reset and start casting spells at the beginning. To add a reset condition, type reset equals, just after /cast sequence. Now after the equal sign, you have a choice of 4 reset conditions you can use. You can put a number which tells the macro to reset after so many seconds have gone by since you've used the macro. For example, putting the number 10 here would mean 10 seconds. You can put target, which tells the macro to reset after you have switched targets. Putting combat means the macro will reset every time you leave combat. Adding one of the modifier keys, which are Shift, Alt, Ctrl, will mean the macro will start at the beginning of the sequence while holding down that key. You can combine these reset conditions by adding a slash in between these reset conditions, like this macro for example. Here I have added a reset condition, which should reset my macro every 10 seconds or every time I hold down the Alt button. Targeting. If you are like me, I hold down the Alt key to cast spells on myself. Sometimes the cast sequence macro doesn't always register the Alt button to cast my spells on myself. To fix that, I added a target command. There are 3 ways to add a target command. One way is by adding a new line before your cast sequence macro and typing /target and then adding your target. The second way is by typing out target equals after the /cast sequence command, and adding your target after the equal sign. Another way is to do the simple target shortcut right after the /cast sequence command. The simple target shortcuts have the same functions as the ones above, but they contain fewer characters, needing more space to add more abilities. Now, I'm not going over every one of the target options, but I will go over the most common ones. At player, your spells will target yourself. At focus, this will cast your spells on your focus target. At mouse over, spells will be cast on the target your mouse is hovered over. Pet. Your spells will go to your character's pet, such as a hunter's pet or a mage elemental. Harm. All your spells will be cast on enemy targets and players, the ones that are hostile to you. One cast sequence, different situations. You can use one cast sequence command with both a hostile and friendly target, one set for an enemy target and one set for a friendly target, but it's also very tricky. Using the right combinations of commands in the right order can make your macro fit your needs. In this macro, from my priest, here I separate my friendly spells from my hostile ones by adding a semicolon in between. Now I have my macro set, so if I have a friendly as my target, I can use my healing spells to heal them. If I have an enemy as a target, I do my hostile spells and they will reset after 10 seconds. Modifiers. Adding a modifier option to your cast sequence macro will change the way your macro works. Best way to explain it is by going back to the macro. Here we see two sets of spells, one for friendly and one for hostile. I am going to change this macro so that I can cast my friendly spells on myself while holding the Alt button, while having a hostile target. Notice that I have added a modifier option in the macro. When I did, I separated the target and modifier options using a comma. Adding a modifier option tells your macro what to do in case a certain key is pressed, such as the Alt key. There's about 4 modifier keys you can choose from: Mod Shift, Mod Alt, Mod Control, and Nomod. All together now. Now let's put all that we have learned today all together. Here's an example of a macro I made for my shaman. Here I have a series of spells that cast my healing spells on a friendly target, if I have a friendly target, or on myself if I hit the Alt button. Now the second part casts a different series of spells if my target is an enemy target. Here in this video clip, you can see my shaman attacking a target dummy. In the middle of my hostile spells, I switched my target to the friendly grunt. Notice that my macro switched to my friendly spells. I can now heal the guard. But also notice when I switch back to the target dummy, my friendly healing spells are changed to my hostile spells. If I hold down the Alt button, I can cast my friendly spells on myself. The same applies if I have the grunt guard as my target. If I hold down the Alt button, I can use the spell on myself. Notice that my friendly spells are not resetting the macro. Conclusion. And that is how you make a cast sequence macro. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, email, or message me on YouTube. With love from Mia.